Alright guys, what's going on? This is day 3 of Road to Becoming a Data Analyst. So I've revamped my resume I don't know, 4 or 5 times. I did my own template, then I used their template that they gave me. So basically, hopefully they get to see it. But let's see if you can see my display here. So I gave my template on my Slack channel here, so they should have my resume with all the other coaches and stuff. So maybe I get some feedback on that tomorrow, which I'm hoping to get. So the next step to doing that is kind of going over some behavioral stuff, and I think we saw that in day 2. But I'm gonna go over some of the Amazon behavioral stuff, kind of watch a couple of videos and kind of get prepped up. So I gotta do some of these scenarios that he's asking for. Wondering if I can add a new one. Doc, create, share, yes. Yeah, so I gotta go back to the video and star method and scenarios and stuff like that. So let's take a look. Actually, let me just read this couple. Gonna read this here. The interview, exciting news. Part 1 introduction, table contents. Oh, it is 72 pages, so it's part 1 introduction. Let's check it out. Part 1 introduction. Intro to data engineering. Congratulations. If you're reading this, it means that you are serious about becoming a data engineer. This course is intended for anyone who wants to feel confident going into the data engineering interview. I am super excited for you because I am going to make a statement that I don't think has become quite mainstream yet. Becoming a data engineer is the most underrated position in tech and will quickly gain importance over the next 5-10 years. We're seeing that being reflected in the compensation, where companies are now starting to pay data engineers the same as they would as a software engineer or data scientist, something that was not true 5 years ago. Why? Because of one incredibly important metric that came out in 2021. 80 to 90% of the data in the world is unstructured. For tech companies, this is like having oil and not having the resources available to convert it into gas. While data scientist was crowned the sexiest job in the world back in 2012, with the position came the need for what people refer to as its cousin, data engineers. I'll be the first to acknowledge that this book is not meant to be an all-in-one book in one specific subject. For example, if you want to become an expert in all things Amazon Web Services, there are great sources out there. With that said, if the goal is to break into the DE career, those courses will not suffice. You can become an expert in AWS on the job, where your coworkers will be there to help you, but there are some fundamental AWS things that you can learn to help stand out during the interview process, and that is what this book is about. This book consolidates everything you need to know related to data modeling, system design, SQL, SQL, Python, AWS, behavioral questions, etc. to get you through this part of the data engineering interview process. When I found myself studying for interviews, I noticed that I had to search in multiple places for different pieces of information. I was mind blown that there wasn't just one place that had everything. This leads to overstudying, and now it's an inside joke in the tech industry that most engineers realize that they have massively overstudied for interviews. On top of this, if you don't have the right network or mentor, it can be incredibly challenging to break into the industry with close to zero experience. So with that out of the way, what exactly is data engineering? Here is the analogy I like to use. Imagine you want to build a house. Data scientists might come in, paint the house, create an ML model, furnish the place, create dashboards, communicate analytics, and get insightful metrics. How many beds, bathrooms, square feet does this house have? The data engineer, however, is the one who built the foundation of the house, the pipes, the wirings, the structure, and even the alarm detectors. The data engineer works very closely with the data scientist to build the foundation necessary for the data scientist to do their job. This includes building data sets, cleaning up data, Monitoring data quality, creating real-time processes, scaling data to make sure the product can handle large amounts of data, some fun SQL and Python exercises, and much more. My goal is to help you get a job, plain and simple. If after reading this book you feel like you could benefit from one-on-one mentorship with a FAA engineer, visit Data Engineer Academy. Alternatively, we have interactive portals of D, absolutely free. A lot of companies have some sort of educational budget, so you can most likely expense the mentor package part of it through your company. So company, just with that, let's begin. Alright, let me get through. I'm gonna get through page 12, I think, and then we'll move on. Part 2, Data Modeling. Section 2, Fact Tables. Let's start with fundamentals. Dimensional, DIM tables, and fact tables. While data can be found in many different forms, dimensional tables and fact tables. DIM. Let's just think about tables the same way we were thinking about an Excel sheet, rows and columns. These tables can be found in a database, which you can use using SQL query from. We will go over database-specific Redshift data warehouse later in this book. In data engineering, fact tables contain the measurements, like sales in dollars at a specific grain, like a row for everyday data. You work at an e-commerce company, AMZ, where users can buy and sell stuff online. Your job is tracking the amount in sales every day, along with a few metrics common in the e-commerce space. What might a table look like? Fact, daily sales, date, number of units sold, 42. It's aggregated the total sales in units per day. The date column in table 1 is the primary key. This means that there should not be two rows with the same date value. What if you want to see how much each buyer is in abroad every day? Table 2, daily activity. User ID, 123, sales. Fact, daily activity aggregate the total amount of sales per day and user. The date and user ID comes together in tables, what known as a compound primary key. This time we see that a date or user ID can repeat more than once, but together they should not. The user ID is also known as a foreign key, meaning that it can be used to join another table where the user ID column is primary key. Finally, what if you want to break this table into each order? Order ID, aggregating the total number of sales units per day, user, and order. Finally, the date, user ID, and order ID columns now are also compound primary key. There's a grain and there is a measurement. In this case, the measurement is the form of an aggregation. Don't worry if you don't quite fully understand the part about the keys. We will go over the database modeling section. For now, let's continue on fact tables. Transaction, periodic snapshot, and accumulating snapshot tables. When you think of a transaction table, think of table 3, fact daily orders. A buyer with user ID and puts in an order. The order can have multiple items and number of units in the cart, and bam, the transaction gets recorded on the table. When you think of a periodic snap, think of table 1, fact daily sales. Maybe your fellow data sales want to get a tablet dashboard to graph sales over time. However, the data at its most granular level is too large, and so you decide to create a daily snapshot. This is table 1. Note, periodic can also mean weekly or monthly. In some cases, it might even make sense to create differences for all of these periods. Accumulating snapshot tables. The accumulating snapshot table is less common, but still important. This table means that one row is getting updated along a certain process or time period. Here's a great article behind the history of the accumulating snapshot table. A good example is thinking about a weekly period. Table 1 is at a daily grain. Let's say we wanted a weekly grain. For a periodic snapshot, we can update the table once a week, every Monday, for example. What if we wanted to check the weekly price before the week was up, though? We can insert a row on Tuesday before, and then update that row every day by adding the sales today onto the single row representing the weekly total. Stick with me, you will see that this relates to passing. Section 3, dim tables. In the previous section, we learned about the 3 different types of fact tables. We also went over some keys, but we will save that for the next section. For this part, we'll learn about the common type of table, dim dimensional. A dim table is a table organized descriptive attributes to columns. SCD, slowly changing dimensions. As you can tell by the name of an SCD, is where the value won't change much over time. Within SSD, there are 3 type 1, type 2, type 3. Is the most common dimensional table that rules. Let's zoom in and user ID 1, 2, 3, and pretend that we have another table called dim users. Nasos, Snef, Nasos primarily. Okay. after. There's Seattle. After all, how often does someone change their name? However, you can see when Neftes has decided to change from, therefore, researchers would change the value of New York to Seattle. This one where does not get erased. As you can see, we explain in a row using SQL demand. The benefit here is that we get to keep this string to see where it changes. Recently had a column, old residence location. It's now common, probably will not get a string or so. Let's mention about it before. Old residence. My browser preference is that you should avoid this type 3. Go to table scheme, the skeleton of the table. If you don't know what the table columns are going to be, for example, database modeling. We will discuss why fact and tables, why they are. This will help you pass the data box of the internet. After that, you will write SQL queries. Let's stop with the star schemas. So, section 4, database modeling, is when you model out what your data warehouse is going to look like. A data warehouse can contain one or more schemas, and a schema can contain multiple tables. Use this analogy. Think of a data warehouse, physical warehouse. A schema is a section or a corner of the warehouse. There are boxes. The tables are typically belong to one part of the group. For example, let's say you work for a hedge fund and are just building an entire data warehouse from scratch. Build a sales schema only available on the sales teams. A marketing schema only available to the marketing team, and an investment schema only available to the investments team. This is for the organization. Security and privacy. As a data engineer, you may be tasked with database admin tasks, such as controlling who has access to what. Won't need access to marketing data that might contain customers' personal information. Therefore, it's a good idea to separate these tables into different schemas. Tables and continuous section 1 and 2. Did you ever wonder why exactly div and fact tables exist? Users and fact data activity again. Core div users. Date. User ID. Boom, boom, boom. You can see the core at the beginning of the table. That's because now we have placed our tables in the core schema. So that's the main type of data that can be there. For the main tables, just go to the core schema or the public schema. This name doesn't really matter. Just why do we need a dim table to begin with? We could just add the first name and last name column. Doesn't change. Even if Neff decided to change his name to Jeff, user ID is still both tables. You can join these two tables on the value. Space. In core dim, users, there's one row allocated information pertaining to Neff basis. If we were to include Neff makes a purchase, there's no reason to have first name column in core fact daily. Therefore, take up a lot of unnecessary space, which leads to a lot of money that can be saved. This is one way not to get out better from company statement. Alright. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. I'm gonna do this thing. Behavioral stuff.
Hey, what's up, guys? Recording this for the behavioral recording this with, which is only 2 or 3 pages, where you take this, but after you read, describing what task was at hand for you, describing the action you ultimately took, and describing the result you took, which these 4 leadership principles, you never ever have to do it again.
So let's do this. Bias for action. Bias for action. What was the other one? Disagree and commit. Ownership deep dive. method. Down 1 star. Situation, task, action, results. Situation, task, action. Hold on, what? Task, action, result. Got it. Sweet. Bias for action, disagree and commit, ownership, deep dive, prioritization, star, situation, task, action, result. Got it. Okay.
It's really that simple. And you can see here, it's 8 lines long. And the nice part about this is that once you do it once for these 4 leadership principles, you never ever have to do it again. And so get it out of the way. I get it. It's annoying. Everybody wants to jump into the SQL questions and, do the sexy part, et cetera, et cetera. I get it. But the behavioral questions are something that's going to come up guaranteed. And so you might as well do it. Share it with me. I'll give you feedback, and then you never have to do it again. And so, again, Amazon leadership principles, right? I know I spelled that wrong, but we go here, right? And then you'll see all the leadership principles here. There's 12 of them. Don't overthink it. Just start with these 4. These 4, and if you want, you can probably do 4 stories, so 1 story under each one. And then we can move it around and even put more leadership principles under each one. So for example, you might do a disagree and commit here. And for some reason, this one might also be an invent and simplify. And so a lot of people will typically go here and they'll do a story for each one. What I'm saying is do 4 really, really good stories. And then we can put multiple leadership principles under the story. And so 4 really, really good stories will get the job done. And so I'm going to put this, here, Amazon LPs, and that falls under behavioral questions in case you want to see it as well. But again, it's really, really simple, yet it's going to have a massive impact. And it's 1, 2, 3 pages long. Do it right away. Get the behavioral questions out. And that way we can start applying immediately within the first week of this program. And your behavioral questions are already taken care of for the next 3, 4, 5 months, right? So, let me know if there's any questions. I hope that was short and sweet. And, don't overthink it. And make sure you read this example here for the STAR method. And by the way, I do give a lot of more sample questions and answers in case you have any other questions. And so feel free to kind of take anything there as well. But again, the first 3 pages is all you really need. But all of this should be able to really bring you to the finish line. So let me know if there's any questions. Get this done, share with me, or else I cannot help you. And then I'll give you comments and feedbacks, and we'll go from there. Awesome. Later.
Oh, same shit. What the fuck? Alright. Okay, what I'll do is just schemas, huh? Skeleton. Didn't know that. Didn't know that, man. Okay. What I'm gonna do, we're gonna take a bathroom break, and then we'll just go through all this here. And then I'm just gonna watch these videos, and then just call it a night. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna upload to my YouTube. want to check out my YouTube, it's under Labradoodle. So, that'll be cool. YouTube Studio. I can drag and drop. Let's do that. Pot Duke. There we go. Cool. Hour 40. Jeez. Okay, so let's go here. YouTube. Let's see if I have I have part 1 up.
Can't show me that it's physically impossible based on the laws of physics that we know that it is possible and I'm going to go do it. It's the same concept as Roger Bannister running the first 4-minute mile. Like, no one had done it before, and he's like, well, physically, it's not impossible. It's not breaking the laws of physics for me to run a 4-minute mile.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Well, again, this person seems like
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm sidetracking here, but hype trigger. This thing called hype trigger. What's hype trigger? This is AI to hype. Try online, download content. Ooh. Join.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Mike the Tech here, and what you're looking at is Hype Trigger. This is what I've been using to make AI cuts and find all of my best clips, essentially, in my streams. So, as you know, most people stream for a couple hours at a time. My last stream, for example, was over 4 hours, and it is very, very time consuming to go through those and try and find your best clips. Just even scrolling through, you're going to miss some. You're not going to find all the wins. You're not going to find all the kills. It's a lot of work to edit those videos and find those clips. So, what I've been using, and you may have seen my older videos, is AI to get these results. And before, I would use things like sizzle.gg or eclipse.gg and use online AI tools to process the videos. And that works all right, but you do get the watermark. You do have to pay for the enhanced processing. It does, it's not like completely free. So I thought I'd try something local. I've been looking for something local that can run on your computer and still use AI or machine learning to kind of determine where your best clips are. And I found that with Hype Trigger. So I went ahead and installed Hype Trigger, and I ran a 4.5 hour clip, 4 hours and 40 minutes through the process with no changes at all. I did not change any of these settings here. We can see that we have different settings to detect kills, deaths, headshots, victory royales, knockdowns, and you can even add your own custom triggers if you want to get into the more advanced stuff. And you can say whenever this piece of the screen changes and says season 3, it'll detect it and mark it as a new season, or whatever you want to detect on the screen. I haven't gotten into editing those, but if you want me to make a video on those, I could do some more research and put together a video on how to make your own custom detection methods. But anyway, the way it works is you click on add video, you choose a video, and you add it in, obviously. And then when you click on the video, you can choose what game is being played in it. So this one is Warzone 2, so I'm going to choose Warzone 2.0. And then you choose how many samples per second. You can choose any number, but between 2 and 5 is what they recommend. You can see here, higher values are more accurate, but will take longer. And so between 2 and 5 is good, so I switched mine to 5. And then you can just click on Find Clips. And that's going to run a very slow process, but it's going to go through the entire video and mark down every single clip that it finds. In the right side, I've already done this video, and I found 114 clips, which is a little bit deceiving. It's not actually 114. I'll tell you why in a second. All the clips that it found are shown here in a marking, so I can click on one of these, on a victory royale, for example, and it'll show you the beginning of the victory royale, the fight that led up to it, and I have mine set for 20 seconds before the victory royale, so it records 20 seconds before then. And then there's a clip. That's a victory royale where I killed someone trying to use that new overpowered sword, and that's a pretty fun one, right? So that is saved as a clip automatically on the right-hand side. And you can scroll through all these, and you can see it detected 114 events, or 114 clips. Now, the reason I say that's a little bit deceptive is because there is a setting here that says combine clips within 5 seconds. So if you got 4 kills in a row, and that's 4 different clips, that will combine it into one clip that's maybe 30 or 40 seconds long that shows you getting all 4 kills. And especially if it's leading up to like a victory royale, that can make a really fun montage. So this 114 clips, when you export, actually comes out to about maybe 40 or 60 clips. Let me actually go check. "60 clips. So it made 60 different clips that include all of my kills, all of my wins, and it even includes knocks. So whenever I knock someone else, it'll include that clip as well. So it'll show knocks before kills and then combine those together. So it'll show a knock and a kill together. That's a pretty useful one as well. If you want to adjust it, like say anytime I get a win, I don't want it to just give me 30 seconds beforehand. I want it to give me like 5 minutes beforehand, because I want that whole clip. I want to watch the whole match. Instead of recording 20 seconds here, you can change this to any number you want. So you can put like 120 and it'll be 2 minutes. So it'll record 2 minutes before your win and turn that into its own clip. So that's how you can make some of those edits there to make that a little bit easier. And then you just hit save clips. and it'll save all of your clips into a folder, so you can just toss them together in your montages, add music, and do whatever you want with them. Super, super useful. I love this program, and let me know what other types of videos you'd like to see me do. If you want me to cover any more usage types, configuration stuff, adding more types of detection methods, or if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you like this one, and have a good day. Peace.
It's Mike the Tech, Mike the Tech, the architect, Mike the Tech, yeah, Mike the Tech, the architect,
I say pending. Says pending. What is this? Alright, whatever. Downloaded that other thing. Alright, let me take a piss, watch this leadership principles. organize my notes, man. Mode. SQL. Take a look at that. Go through all that. Holy shit, 12? There's 12 fucking, how long are these things? Oh, they're not long. Leadership principles. We use our leadership every day, whether we're discussing ideas for new product or setting peculiar. Customer obsession. Leaders start with the customer and work backwards. They work vigorously to earn and keep customer trust. Although leaders pay attention to competitors, they obsess over customers.
Customer obsession. So leaders start with the customer and work backwards. They work vigorously to earn and keep customer trust. Although leaders pay attention to competitors, they obsess over customers. I'm intentionally starting with customer obsession because, frankly, everything starts with the customer and works backwards from there at Amazon. That's the way we think about our business, and it's always been true. It's always been palpable in the whole time that I've been here. And it's part of what attracted me to Amazon 26 and a half years ago, which was you could really feel that this was a culture and a company that not just talked about doing right by customers, but walked that walk. We're all customers of so many businesses, and we all know what we're treated like. And typically companies talk about being customer focused, but rarely are. And I really think Amazon has always been, and you've seen it from the beginning up to now, all sorts of examples of that. But, I remember the first full year I was at Amazon, one of the big debates that year was whether or not we should have customer reviews on books detail pages. We were a books only retailer at that point. And the debate really was because publishers didn't want us to have customer reviews because some of them might be negative. But the reality is, if you're trying to help customers make the best possible decision for themselves on whether they want a product or not, having honest customer reviews is incredibly helpful. So we decided to have those customer reviews. And you can see that customer focus all the way up to today. Just look at what happened during the pandemic, where we had this very uncertain economy where every company in the world, including Amazon, was trying to save money however they could. Most technology companies looked at that environment and said, we're going to find a way to extract every last dollar from our customers in this tight economy. Amazon did the opposite. In our cloud computing business in AWS, we proactively went to customers and tried to figure out how we could cost optimize for them where they could save money so they could redeploy that money in the future on projects that actually could help their business and they could live to fight another day in a difficult economy. That's pretty different. And you can see it in how we do our product development here at the company as well. We won't write lines of code until we do the working backwards documents, a press release to make sure that if we built the product, we know that it's going to matter for customers. And then a frequently asked questions document where we really try and vet ahead of time all the things customers care about. What problem are we trying to solve? What will customers care most about? What will they be most disappointed about if we launch with this set of features? What will they love most? All the things that make it work for customers. That's what we're always trying to figure out. Now, I have also seen over time, sometimes people get confused about how competitors or economics come into play when you think about the leadership principle of customer obsession. And people wonder, well, if am I being customer obsessed if I'm thinking about the sustainability and economics of what I'm doing? And, of course, many of us remember in the early 2000s, the company Cosmo, which promised 1 hour delivery of videos to your house. They actually delivered a lot of ice cream to my house too, by the way. I really enjoyed the service, but it was not economic. And the business lasted a year or two and then it was gone. And you're not really doing right by customers over a long period of time if you get them excited about something that you can't sustain. So of course you have to think about economics when you're thinking about what you're building. And then some people ask, well, am I being customer obsessed if I think about what competitors have offered and try to address something competitors have put out that customers like? And the reality is that if you're trying to build the best possible customer experience, you have to be aware of what competitors are doing. And if competitors build something that we haven't, by the way, we're very inventive and we're very customer focused, but we're not going to build every single new feature that customers love. There are going to be others that do so as well. And if a competitor builds something that customers love, we should be aware of it and we should be inspired by it and think about how we can improve our own customer experience with what we learn from what competitors have done. So we always are going to have to be aware of competitors and economics and building the best customer experience, but we're going to spend most of our waking hours focused on what we know customers care most about. And the reality is that everybody at this company has not just the freedom, but really the expectation to look at what customers want and figure out how we can be better and better for them every day. Ownership. Leaders are owners. They think long-term and don't sacrifice long-term value for short-term results. They act on behalf of the entire company beyond just their own team. They never say, "That's not my job." Ownership, that leadership principle, is a mindset and a way to behave. And in many ways, it's the most attitudinal of all of these leadership principles. Yes, it means when you tell your team you've got something, that you've got it, and that you don't have to be reminded constantly of getting it done. But it also is a way of thinking about the business and the company that's more holistic and long-term. Great owners are always asking themselves, what would I do if this were my personal money? And we used to talk about this anecdote a lot, which is the difference between renters and owners. So if you have an apartment and it's Christmas time and you buy a Christmas tree, sometimes a renter will actually amazingly nail the Christmas tree into the wood floor. You would never do that if you own that apartment and those wood floors. We have to think like owners. I was speaking with a young professional actually just a few weeks ago, and I was asking that person about their new job. They don't work at Amazon. I was asking them about their new job and the store that they work in. And I was asking them if they had any ideas for how they could increase the revenue of the store that they're working in. And they said, well, I'm not really that interested in that. I don't get paid more if I come up with an idea for more revenue. I don't get a commission on that. It's not really my area. And I thought, that's not ownership. By the way, this young person will get this. This is a really young person. But my point is, that's not how we think about ownership. That's not what we want. We want people who feel like owners, who think about problems more holistically. If they see an issue and they don't know if it has an owner to resolve it, they find that owner. They don't just assume that Sarah or John has it. If they see something that looks like it's half finished, or they don't know if there's going to be the right pass off to somebody, they make sure that there is that pass off. And if there isn't, then they take care of it themselves. Owners ensure that problems are owned, that they have a path to resolution, and they drive it themselves if needed. And when there's a hard problem, owners don't punt it for somebody else. Owners figure out how to pull a group of people together to find the right solution for customers. They think about the issues from an entire company perspective, and they think about it long term. That's what we want in owners, and that's what we expect. Invent and simplify. Leaders expect and require innovation and invention from their teams and always find ways to simplify. They are externally aware, look for new ideas from everywhere, and are not limited by not invented here. As we do new things, we accept that we may be misunderstood for long periods of time. For a lot of companies who actually make it as a company, they get through the startup stage and make it as a company, they make it on the strength of a great innovative idea. However, for a lot of those companies, it actually becomes really difficult to invent something else new. And they spend lots of time just iterating in small ways on that original invention idea that made them as a business. And it's actually difficult to sustain being successful in how dynamic a world we live in and how fast technology changes if you're not constantly inventing and reinventing. And I think over the 29 years that we've started Amazon thus far, we have been very vigilant and very strong at continuing to invent and simplify across our business. And in some cases, it's been whole cloth invention. Pioneering AWS and cloud computing is a good example of that, or pioneering a digital book reader, or a device that does natural language understanding and automatic speech recognition, like what we did with devices for Alexa is another example. And in many other cases, what we've done instead of whole cloth invention is just completely reinvented our existing business and the customer experience associated with it. And a really good example of that is our marketplace business. So in the late 90s or so, what we noticed, being externally aware, was that customers were really responding well to companies like eBay and Half.com that had a lot of third-party sellers who were offering really broad selection and a variety of price points to customers. And we debated very animatedly inside the company whether we should have a marketplace offering. And the reasons that people were resistant to doing so at the time were in part because we had all these relationships that we had set up with distributors and publishers, and we didn't know whether they would be so keen on us allowing third-party sellers in the marketplace or on our website. And then we also just couldn't really believe that anybody else, particularly third-party sellers, would take care of customers as well as we did. And so we really fought this, and eventually we decided that we were going to build a marketplace offering because at the end of the day, having much broader selection for customers and lower prices was better for customers. And we're always going to shade on what we think customers want most. Then we really struggled with the right implementation. And what we started with was trying to build an auctions website like eBay. And that was a complete Me Too offering that failed miserably. And then we said, okay, we'll take all our third-party seller selection and we'll put it in a separate area of our website that we call Z Shops. And that's where all the third-party selection will be. But of course, that turned out to be a cul-de-sac and a place where nobody wanted to go to. And it wasn't until we came up with a simplifying assumption that we will have all our third-party selection on the same detail pages as our first-party retail selection, where all the traffic was, which, by the way, in retrospect, seems blindingly obvious, but at the time was a real aha for us. Until we made that simplifying assumption, we did not have a marketplace business. And once we did, we actually found the marketplace offering really took off. And that turned out to be a really good decision for customers because they got much broader selection and even lower prices. And for our business, because about 65% of the units we sell today are marketplace items. So we have to constantly be pushing ourselves to invent and reinvent what's possible for customers.
This is a lot. Might just call it a night after this, man. Holy crap. Yeah. Alright. Continue tomorrow. Part 4. Alright. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you tomorrow.